Board of Directors special meeting, Tuesday, May 8th, 2012. And we need to do a roll call.
Karen Machado, James Fisher, Tess Fitzgerald's present, Denise Gallant, Keith Gudger,
Here.
Joe Hall,
Here.
Jennifer Pittman,
Here.
Matilda Rand,
Here.
Dory Steinman,
Here.
Adam Wade.
Here.
Okay, at this point, I'd like to have any oral communications from the audience. Anyone? Thank you. Number 3 is consideration of late additions to the agenda, additions and deletions to consent and regular agendas. As the first item, I would like to ask the board to make findings that a matter arose subsequent to the posting agenda that needs immediate attention to avoid detriment to the interests of the corporation and/or the public interest. And that would be to add 9.1, appointment of executive director search committee.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. Is there any discussion from the audience? Anyone?
I'd like to discuss it under when it comes up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that putting all the eggs in one basket can be a tricky thing at this point. So Plan B and even beyond that, I think having some sort of leadership more than what is presently happening would be a good thing. So I think it would be a good idea to set up a search committee. It will be difficult, no doubt about that. It's not going to be easy to find anybody, but I think we should be looking.
So the motion is to add this item to the agenda. Is there any discussion from the board? Okay. Can we have a vote then? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
So noted. Did we want to discuss any additions or deletions to the consent agenda? Yes, Tess.
I wanted to, at the last meeting, under the item relating to board member requests for specific items to appear on the next agenda, I had requested that the issue of the appointment of a board clerk be placed on on this agenda, and I don't see it here. So I would like to see that added to item 4, which I'm going to ask the chair to pull anyways, if that's acceptable
Yes.
to the board. My recollection was in open session that we said this would come back
Yes,
to this meeting.
we did.
Do we need a motion or anything to add that on here?
I'll make the motion that the appointment of the board clerk be on the regular agenda today.
Okay.
Be added to consent item 4.
To add it
'Cause
to
I'm gonna
consent
follow.
item.
Yeah,
and then
that's where we have the job description.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I second.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't have any discussion, but it sounds like we have a second. Is there any discussion? Thanks. Okay. Any discussion on the board? Joe?
I'm going to vote no because I'd like to talk about these issues at the end of the agenda after we've had our closed session first. I'm not in a position right now to talk about that prior to us having our closed session. So I'm going to vote no.
You could ask the person who
see
made the
the
amendment if
closed
they wanted to amend it.
Where's the closed session?
Well, if we were going to pull an item from the consent agenda, which I will be asking the chair to do, it would go at the end of the regular, but I guess that's still before the closed session. The chair would have the discretion to place it on anywhere on the agenda if it's been pulled off of the consent agenda.
Okay.
If you do that, I'll support the motion
Okay.
if it's after the closed session.
But you understand that that motion hasn't been made yet to pull a consent agenda item?
No, I know.
Okay. Any other discussion on this item? Okay. Can we have a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
And I'd like to request that a chair put that item for consideration after the completion of the closed session.
Okay.
13.1.
Is
You need a
that,
second on that one?
is that a motion?
He doesn't need to make a motion.
No, I just request.
Okay.
Okay. All right, I'm happy to do that. So 4 becomes, and 4.1 become 13.1? Or just 4.1?
4 comes 13.1.
Okay. So we are left with just number 5 on the consent agenda, is that correct? Okay. Is there any discussion from the audience on number 5? How about from the board? Discussion number 5. Okay.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, then I'll ask those who are in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passed. Okay. Number 6, the fiscal year 2012-13 work plan and budget. And Mary Ann, did you want to speak to that?
What I did for this outing was I put together a year-long plan as opposed to the 6-month plan, and put together what, moving forward with the exploration of the merger as part of the plan. And so the budget breaks out basically 2 6-month periods where the first 6 months would be during the exploration of the merger, and the second 6 months is assuming that the merger goes forward. And so you see different things in terms of different costs of different positions, the position title, things like that might change. Now, granted, in the exploration of a merger, there clearly may be changes in this process, but right now, this is what we feel to be the best approximation of where we're going to be during the next year.
Okay. Any discussion from the audience? Okay. And any discussion from the board on the, now, we're looking at the plan and the budget as one item?
Yes. It could break it apart if you like, but just, yeah.
Is there an opinion from the board? Would it be fine as one item, or should it be 2 one items? Okay. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to review it. Is there any discussion? Okay. Anyone want to make a motion to approve it?
I'll make the motion to approve it.
Okay.
To prove what?
The plan and the
proposed
budget.
budget that she just presented.
And work plan.
Item
And work plan,
6.
activities plan and
Number
budget.
6.
Just to be complete, that's all.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'd like to abstain.
Pardon?
I'd like to abstain because I need to study it more. I mean,
Okay.
I've studied it, but
Okay, item 7, long-term work plan and budget.
This is the document that really talks about what CTV would look like after, in a post-DIVCO world. And what it talks about, this is the work plan that the committee put together, talking about how we would basically take our model and in a way just really turn it upside down in terms of being the place that would make accessible the equipment, the facilities, the training, and basically eliminate what we do in terms of any kind of unpaid production. So all of our production would obviously have to make money for us, to cover its costs, and What we felt that we had the potential to make money on was training, as we set up in a facility where we would have access to a great training center, and equipment rental. We're going to be starting that in the budget. In the work plan you just approved, we'll be charging for our HD cameras, and we see ourselves charging as we move forward with the different equipment rental, studio rental, edit space, things like that. The one cost that we have, that we would have the expectation that would be covered by the client would be government meetings. Those costs would be covered by the client requesting, and that's how we run it for, basically, that's how we run it now.
Okay. Okay. Is there any discussion from the audience? Okay. About discussion on the board? Everybody had a chance to look at it. Yes, Joe?
Actually, it's going to be a change, and I'm glad it was laid out. So I want to thank the committee who worked on it for doing the work to kind of start this discussion going. I didn't have anything particular to say because the challenges ahead are going to be so significant in terms of how this operated. This is just a way to lay it out and put it in front of people to think about. So I have no specifics. I just wanted to recognize that there was work to do this and thank the folks that did it.
Okay. I noticed that you, the idea that we had offered during the retreat about the collective of mentors and learners,
Yes.
I see that you incorporated that, and I think that is a very unique way of looking at it, and I'm pleased that you like that idea.
Any further discussion? So can we have a motion to approve the long-term work plan and budget, item 7?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
Someone that works on
Somebody
it.
else seconded it.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Okay, can we, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay. Now, number 8 is review and approve details of member vote on merger with CMAP.
I sent out additional material yesterday to you about this to help us kind of walk through this process. I've been in contact with Morgan Taylor, who's our attorney, and he has pulled the language from the bylaws that would be affected by this change, and he's waiting for us to either approve or the way that we approve this, and he will then be able to go back and put together ballot language for us. So that's what our process has been over the last couple of days since the last meeting. So one of the things we need, the first thing we need to do is declare a date of record. And for people who haven't been through the election process, the date of record just declares the date where you have determined who is an eligible voter. And eligible voters are made up of members in good standing. So let's say if we declared tomorrow the date of record, what that does is say that everyone who's a member tomorrow is eligible to vote in this election. It also starts a clock for us. We will have to have the vote between 30 and 75 days from our date of record. Okay? Sorry. The next thing you'd have to do is figure out between that period of time, between the 30 and 75 days, when you want to have the deadline for the written ballot. And I think that it would be great to figure out in that process, give yourself enough time to have informational meetings for members, to craft the ballot, to get all that work done. So give yourself some time for that. Thank you. I appreciate that. The language for the ballot is, I think, one of the most, it will be probably the biggest decision you make about this. What we need to know before we craft that language is to determine, Does the Board of Directors simply want to ask the members to give up basically their governance rights for the purposes of exploring a merger, or do we want to go to the members and ask for them to give up their governance rights and turn them over to the Board of Directors, period? So how we need to make that decision. I would recommend that we ask the members to turn, to basically abdicate their rights to the Board of Directors, period. Because as we go forward with this merger, if we find that it falls away, it will still fall to the Board of Directors to basically create a new entity to be able to move forward. So I think I would recommend that. And then the last thing that needs to be done is to appoint a inspector of elections. And you can appoint 1 to 3 people, and that would be someone who would oversee the election process.
Will there be a nice explanation as to why we are doing this? Because a lot of people probably have no clue that anything's wrong, anything's going to change, or whatever.
Absolutely. And
We need
that's
a
one of the
real-
reasons that if, let's say we declare the date of record to be tomorrow, and then we try to set the election in 30 days, probably won't give us enough time to craft the documents, because the document we craft needs to be looked at by the city and the county, and obviously approved by our Board of Directors. And so that is going to take a little bit of time to get that turned around. So we will, and then we need to get that out to our members, have membership meetings, be able to talk to people about their concerns, their issues with this issue. It's a big deal.
Yes, Joe?
You know, stepping back, at our last meeting, we discussed a proposal to have a merger with CMAP, and I don't know if, you know, how many people, if they're watching or don't know anything about it, but there's going to be a transition in how community TV is funded, and one of the options we're looking at is to merge, because we're going to have to cut our overhead and costs and a whole bunch of other aspects of how the group operates. And I think this is a good method to look at that and try to transition. In terms of what you're saying, and before I do that, are we open to discuss now? I don't want to go on if you haven't called for members to discuss. Do you want me to go ahead?
What is the question exactly?
Well, anyhow, I think that's why we're doing it, but I thought I better stop now and see, because I have a few other things I'd like to say about this before, but I don't know if I'm in the proper order right now to go on speaking, so
Okay.
just let me know.
You want to discuss the merger, or you want to discuss the item 8?
I want to discuss item 8, but I want to talk about the wording and why we're doing the wording the way we are or may propose. And so that's what I'd like to talk about now,
The wording of,
of the ballot measure.
okay. Did you propose any wording for the ballot?
We have not yet proposed wording. That will, once we make a conclusion here tonight, I'll go back to Morgan Taylor, and he will propose wording to us.
Okay.
Oh, good.
So what we're looking at is a date of record, a deadline for written vote from members. It does say 3, ballot language for written vote.
In terms of what are we instructing Morgan to look at in terms of ballot language, and then we will.
And that's what I want to talk about when we're open.
Okay. So why don't we take public comment?
So I just came back from vacation, and this was quite a bombshell for me. I'm feeling incredibly conflicted. There's my idealism says no, this is anti-democratic, and it takes away from the community aspect of the station. But I'm also a pragmatist, and when I look at the actual reality, how many meetings have I been the only one coming up to address the Board of Supervisors? I just gave you all promotions.
We're not that bad, August.
Anyway, you see my point, and this is why I'm conflicted. I think it's a great theory. It hasn't really worked out as well as I would have liked it to in terms of member participation. And with all the challenges we're facing, I'm afraid at this point I'm just going to let go of my idealism and say, well, what else are we going to do? I don't like it. And I know others of you probably feel the same way. It's kind of like, well, we're kind of moving in a direction away from the core participatory democracy that to me is a very important component of this organization. And the pragmatist says that don't mean anything if the organization doesn't survive. So at this point in time, subject to change, of course, I think I would support the motion of asking the members to abdicate the governance of the bylaws. Thank you.
Ron, could I ask, are you saying permanently or for the duration
Yes,
of the merger?
permanently, not part two of what Mary Ann said.
Thank you.
I just think in terms of moving forward, there's so many things that have to be changed that I just have to trust the Board of Directors to keep our mission on their radar and be, nimble enough to make these moves. If we have to call an election every time important bylaws come up, it would be, very complicated.
Thank you, Ron. Yes, Matilda?
I think probably what Ron is talking about and what some of us feel here too, and I'm sure that's among the membership plays also, is trust. And I believe that if we ask the members to abdicate their vote or their say-so during the time that we established the merger, giving us the trust to do that. Once we have done that very well, then I think the membership may abdicate their rights to change the bylaws from then on. But we have to gain that trust. And just giving it all over, I'm not so sure it goes over. I mean, people may say no for that particular reason, but they may say yes on, okay, we're entrusting you to do this merger right and to come out good for us, for the whole community, for the merger, do that well. And then, membership may have enough trust in us that any changes in bylaws from then on are entrusted to the board too. They may, if you do the whole thing, they may just say no because there's that trust issue. But they will understand that in order to do the merger well, we need to really focus and concentrate and be very specific and not have to go every time back and forth to the membership. Let's do that well and then ask for the rest.
I don't know who is next.
Actually, let's go this way, and I'll be next.
Okay.
I can see what Matilda's saying, but actually the speaker we had can express my thoughts, and my concerns are a little different, and they're mostly that it's going to take a lot of funding to do this. And I think basically I see the vote as a vote whether you move forward in a different direction or you don't. And if they vote no, then this organization will either transition or some other organization will take its place. But I don't think I would support spending a lot of money to move forward if we had to have the potential of having to go back. And I have no problem doing it, but I just think it's going to be very expensive. It's going to take a lot of time, and there isn't a lot of time left. And I would take the latter option that the executive director mentioned in terms of how to move forward. I think it's kind of now or never in terms of how we do this. And I think you're right. Some people may take that point. They vote no. And then there are other options that can be explored and see what happens. But I think this is the way to approach the merger. And at some point you have to allow your board to have the freedom to try to do what's best for the organization. And I think there'll be different opinions on this group throughout the process, so I don't think points of view will be suppressed, but I think we'll have a process that's timely enough to move this into the next stage before time catches up with CTV.
May I respond to that? Is that okay, Tess?
Okay.
I mean, we would be asking the membership to abdicate there during the time that we're setting up the merger, that we don't constantly have to go back, you know, if bylaws need to be changed at that point. And once it is successful and we've gained the trust, then it may be, you know, a good precedent of, you know, the board is doing what's right for the community, for the different funders and us. So it's just how far do you want it to go? And how successful do you want to be with this vote?
Well,
If you did all, or let's, you know, this is a very specific direction project, do the merger, do it well. If you do it well, we can give you the rest. But
I'll respond to you, and then I think there are other people that want to talk.
Okay.
I don't see a path forward with 2 elections, because there are going to have to be some hard decisions made, and no matter what you do in this process, somebody will probably not enjoy the results. Others will. And I think you kind of have to say, this is an option. If you want to do it, we'll move forward with us doing it. If you don't want to do it, vote no, and just leave it at that. Those are my thoughts. I don't want to take any more time on it.
Okay. Jennifer?
Yeah, my thoughts are that really we need to present it as if they have no choice, because I don't believe that they do. I think that Kathy Bisbee has clearly said she wants to know whether the membership is behind the idea of the merger right off the bat, as soon as possible. And if they're not against it, I mean, if they're against it, then, you know, I mean, then it's over. We don't have time to go back. I mean, this is like a one-shot deal, so I feel like if we ask for this vote, then perhaps during our information meetings and our educational meetings with membership, we could ask them if they have, I mean, we've been asking people all along for their best ideas. Are you willing, do you have any ideas? Do you want to participate? We've been asking people that, and I just feel like this is the time we need to really say, we don't really have another choice.
Tess?
I think that before we really go down the road of pursuing a merger, we need to ask the membership. And if asking the membership is asking them to take a vote on ceding their rights to determine the bylaws, that's what we need to do. I mean, that's kind of, how serious is everybody here? And it's one thing for us as a board to be serious about it, but in the current structure that we're set up with right now, we really need to know what the membership's going to allow. Because if they don't allow it, we don't go forward with this plan, and we need to come up with something else very, very quickly. So I would like to make a motion. I'm going to exclude one part of it because I don't really have an answer for that, and I'll leave that to the rest of the board. But for the purposes of this motion, I would like to move that we declare the date of record for a membership vote approving exploration of the merger and formation of a new organization as May 24th, and that we declare the deadline for written vote from members to be June 25th, and that we appoint Inspector of Elections to be Keith Guger and Matilda Rand.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor,
Second.
and we have a second from Joe. Okay.
Before we vote, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Does that sound, I mean, I know you won't be here, but does that sound like that's a doable time period?
Yes.
I mean, without an executive director and
I think
with us, that looks like that would go, Kathy's
I
going, yeah?
think we have to move that, and then while I'm not here trying to put together materials that can go out to staff, I think Kathy from CMAP would be willing to help us out with some things, I think.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I have one comment, if I could make. As I recall from reading this, we could have 3 election inspectors, and I just wanted to see if anybody else on the board wanted to be an election inspector. I'm not going to be around, so that's that, but I just thought we should ask if anybody else wanted to do it.
I don't hear any.
What does that involve?
And those of us who were appointed, who are going to be
know about
appointed, do we have a say so?
Well, you could decline. I just figured that, the most important thing about an inspector of elections is integrity and impartiality. And so the two of you came to mind, and that's why I put you out there. I wasn't necessarily saying you endorsed that, but as a board member, I think that you would probably offer an independent perspective of the process, which is what's required of that position.
That is correct.
And I believe you both represent the members directly and are not in an appointed position. I think that's another good reason.
No other volunteers.
So I would like to ask Tess here, in your motion, you put a date of record, a deadline, and inspector of elections, but you did not address ballot language, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I just wanted to-
Hoisting that off on the rest of you.
I wanted to clarify what the motion was to
That's
everyone.
exactly what she said. I did take note.
So, let's see. I don't
Call
think-
for the question.
I'm going to call for the question here, and anybody, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And abstained, so we're okay. So we're left with ballot language for the written vote. And that was what we just had a lot of discussion on.
Right.
I would like to interject one thing.
Could you repeat
Yeah, that's what I was
what the
gonna-
options were?
Well, what we had talked about at the last meeting was putting out to a vote, and Kathy Bisbee had also requested that we put out to a vote the membership's willingness to have the Board of Directors act in their behalf and to move forward with a merger. What I think, so we can couch it in that way, but basically if we move forward with that, what we're asking is that the Board of Directors has the power to take apart the organization and reconstitute it as a different organization. And to do that, or if they do that, you could opt to do it in a way that members no longer have the capacity to vote in board members, in that process, the members' power could be taken away. So I feel that it needs to be clear to the members what they're being asked. We can ask them about a merger, but ultimately, if we ask them for that control through the process of a merger, we're asking them to abdicate their control.
Right.
And take whatever organization comes out at the other end of this process.
But there were two options, right?
Well, what I'm saying is we can ask them if they are for us going forward with a merger and would be willing to support it by abdicating their rights. But I think if in terms of putting it in that way, we are basically asking them to give up their power, unless the option would be that you would say to them, we would guarantee that we would still have a membership-governed organization at the end of the merger. And I don't know if that's possible.
I don't see any reason why not.
Why don't we test the waters here with a motion? And Mary Ann, correct me if I'm wrong, if I don't say the language exactly correctly, because I think it's important that everybody understands it. And that I'll move that the election language contain the elements of the merger, and that as part of the merger and to facilitate it, the members agree to transfer their authority to approve the merger and subsequent organizational structure to the Board of Directors. Is that
Yes.
clear enough? That's my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. Is there any public comment? Okay. Any other board comment?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't believe that it's absolutely necessary that there is no member control after the initial setup I don't see, I actually see maybe a two-part, and people can vote for this or for that. So give people the option. The merger obviously is in both. In the first one, the structure of the new organization will still include, we have to think about it, still include a certain member control, and in the second one, none. So then there would be an option for people. I do not think that if, as we get further with the merger, that there is a necessity to completely exclude the members from any kind of control. I think it is possible, and I think we need to leave that open. If we only give people the option of, it's going to be merger, and you have nothing to say anymore. I mean, basically, that's
I don't think
abdicating.
that's the option.
Well, that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing.
Matt, we're all members. I represent Capitola, but I am a member. I am a producer of programs.
Mhm.
I feel like, I wear two hats. I'm a member, and then I'm also representing one of the entities here. So it's not that we're against members. I mean, we're all members, right? We have to be.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't understand what you're saying. I don't think.
Jennifer?
I don't know, is it possible in a ballot language to even put forward language that says we encourage, member involvement, member discussion, member
Represent members.
Ideas? I mean, is that even have room? Is that got place in a ballot? No. I guess I think up to this point, members have the option to be involved, and they haven't been, but they have the option, and then even if this passed, members would still have the option to be involved, and that would be encouraged, I would hope, in all the educational meetings. The other thing I wanted to question is, do we have an idea that CMAP has strong membership control and would even be willing to accept a member-controlled organization?
I just want to comment after Jennifer's done.
Do we have any idea about that?
I don't believe they would.
Because that's the sense I got. I mean, the sense I got is Kathy from her note was she just wants to know whether the members will support it and then move forward with it.
I think the reason I made the motion is I want it very clear. And if you don't make it clear, people can't make a choice. And if they feel that this isn't the right choice, then maybe this will energize them to do something different. Because right now, there have been a few of you taking all the work to do this, and if there's a better option out there and they vote no, then we'll see what that better option is. But I think it needs to be a clear choice and a method that allow it to go forward. Because I'm afraid we could spend, $15,000, and then at the end, people start, debating small points, and it just all falls apart. So there'd be a lot of wasted effort. It's better to have a vote now, make it as clear as we can, and see what people believe.
Yes, sir.
So I guess I think that the board needs to decide whether we think it's even an option to have that second option. Because if we don't think that a merger is possible with allowing the temporary control, then we shouldn't put it on the ballot and make it a second choice. I mean, I think that if it's not a feasible option for the organization to merge, then, or to stay alive at all, then I don't think we should put it on that.
Maybe that should be on the ballot. If you're voting no, what is your suggestion for our future? If you're
Or
so
where were
smart,
you?
figure
If you're
out
voting
something
no,
different.
where were you?
Well, you'd have to write a line for an essay.
Well, there's one thing I'd like to say is I've sampled a small number of members about this issue. And the feedback I've gotten is no.
That's what I wonder.
And if,
Members.
I think that the members are intelligent and concerned about this organization. And I think, like Ron said, faced with the absolute reality at the end, they were going to be reasonable operators and do what the right thing is. The question is that going to happen by June 25th? And my concern is that we'll go out there with this language and fail, and then what? If we can come out with language that will allow us to succeed in some form, maybe not 100%, but in some form, and then let time and reason do the rest to get us the rest of the way, I think that's a better plan, but I'm just suggesting that's one way to look at it. I'm open for suggestions, and we have a specific motion on the
Yeah, let's
floor.
just test the water on this one. I mean, I don't disagree with any of you, but I think the members have to be faced, and I'm a member too, we all are,
Yes.
with this choice, and it's going to be a lot of work, and I don't want to proceed down a path, spending money and doing things without knowing that there's authority to succeed. Because if you go down the line, like I said, there are going to be decisions made that you can't please everybody, and people will, have their comments, and that's fine, and there's no reason they can't come and talk to us and go from there. And I think we need to send a clear message to the people who we may be merging with, that we're not going to be a party that is hesitant down the line for whatever reason it could be. And I trust the rest of us to debate this fully enough to represent the point of view. If the members don't trust us, then, so be it. We just sit back, and 2 years from now, that's kind of the end of community TV.
Sell everything.
Matilda?
I want us to, and I've said that earlier, I want us to set ourselves up for success. I agree with Keith that if at this point you're proposing and saying fear factor, fear factor, fear factor, if you don't do it, we go under, you have to do this because we say this is the best thing. Set ourselves up for success. Give the board the power, the authority, not the power, the authority to work on the merger to the best of our, but do not exclude the possibility that in whatever we come up with the merger, off the bat, saying there will be never, ever any say-so by the members about any bylaws, about any decisions. I would not want to exclude that right off the bat, because I think people are going to say no, because they don't have time to let it all sink in. Give us the authority to work seriously about the merger. The merger is the thing that needs to happen, but do not take all the rights away right off the bat. I think we're going to be more successful if we ask for the authority to seriously work on the merger. While we're doing that, making changes to the organization and the bylaws and the rules and everything else that's needed, but don't exclude it forever.
I'm under the impression that the county and the city are going to be making a decision whether to pull an RFP in July. That's really where the fire's at. I mean, this organization has had since 2006 to deal with the reality that we know is coming. And it's only at this late date that we're starting to have conversations. Now, maybe we're probably 7-8 months away from the county being able to pull the contract. We plan ahead. That's something that we've been looking at and that we're gonna be actively working. So I think that the county and the city wanna know what level of commitment this organization has to really dealing with this huge problem, other than, I mean, I think that's where the fire's at, is that the agencies that contract with this agency want to know what the membership is willing to do in order to stay in business. As it sits now, the membership makes that decision. It's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying the time has run out to continue to explore avenues that have no tangible outcomes. So I think that's kind of where the fire's at. And I don't think it's a threat, and I don't think it's fair. I think we have a responsibility to the public as the governmental agencies to assure that this service continues. And if this organization has an inability to do that through lack of planning or vision or whatever, we have to go somewhere else. We don't want to see that happen. We hope, I can't tell you how much hope there is that this fleshes out, but it can't even be embarked upon unless we know what the membership's willing to do.
You know, I kind of like to call a question and only have one more sentence. It's kind of a choice between hope and the unknown. And we have a possibility and we don't. And probably the best way to create the hope is that way. And what you're saying is true. There may be a backlash, but at some point there has to be a decision. And I didn't want to bring up the threat because I don't think that's the way to deal with this. But the reality is some form of this organization will exist in the future, one way or the other. This is the way for this organization to transition in hope. I think I kept that in 2 sentences, so excuse me.
Long sentences.
Well, if you were speaking in a different language, you would do all these semicolons.
Oh, it would slow me down.
Read Kant, and then you get 2 pages of one sentence.
Okay, well,
And I just want to go on the record of saying that I'm, in favor of the merger, and so whatever that takes, I think it's important that we get behind that. I understand the points that were made, but I think we get behind the merger, we get behind it.
okay.
Call for the question.
I'm going to call for it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we need to have a roll call, or
Probably would be a good idea.
let's have a roll call? So
Oh, you want me to do that?
I'll do it.
You're the secretary.
All right, acting. Pittman,
Aye.
Wade,
Aye.
Gujar,
Aye.
Fitzgerald, aye. Hall,
Joe, aye.
Steineman,
Aye.
Rand.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
And you voted aye?
So I believe, if I'm wrong, we've covered the 4 items then with the two motions. Okay. I'd like to move on to the next item on the agenda.
I think this was
9, review and approve letter to CMAP Board of Directors per Kathy Bisbee.
Just one.
Oh, okay, I wondered because I kept looking for that.
Looking for the letter.
Yeah, I've got it here.
We've been,
I have
Oh,
it.
no, this is a different one. This
It's
is
a new one.
the other one was like a question and answer.
Oh, this is different. Separation here. Here you go, you remember everything.
Does Ron get a copy?
yes, he does.
And there are other members on camera. If they want a copy, there's a couple more copies here. So.
There.
Yeah, I wonder if we shouldn't, I hate to do dramatic readings, but this is kind of important, so I wonder if Mary Ann wants to.
Well, first off, Mary Ann, you'll give us some background of where the language came from?
Yes. I have been exploring a variety of different consultants who deal with mergers and integrations of organizations. And this language came from one of those people, Mary Hyland, gave us this sample language. And what we would like is if we give this letter to CMAP, that they would do the same. That we would both agree to the conditions, and I think I can read this, get through it here. Community Television of Santa Cruz County, a nonprofit corporation, commits itself for a period of 6 months from July 1st, 2012, to good faith negotiations toward a merger with the Media Access Partnership, a nonprofit corporation. During that time, CTV will not enter into merger notifications with any other party, nor will it make material changes affecting the corporation, its leadership, or its financial commitments without fully informing CMAP in advance. CTV's delegation to the merger negotiations shall consist of the following number of board members, list names, and representatives from the city and county of Santa Cruz. At the end of the negotiation period, if not sooner, the committee will submit its report and recommendations to the full board. The 6-month time period may be extended by a vote of the board upon request by the negotiations committee.
Yes, Jennifer? Oh, I'm sorry. I would like to get public comment first.
Yeah, it sounds good to me because it's, the operative words in there are without fully informing CMAP in advance. So we
Right.
can do all these things, it's just about information. Now, I'm assuming that they are going to make a letter like this to us?
Yes, I think that's what Mary Ann just said. We will ask for the same pack from them.
Oh, I didn't hear that, sorry. Yeah, yeah, that, it looks pretty good. So.
Thank you, Ron.
I
Roger.
have 2 questions. One is, when we list the board members, do we list that there's, we're hoping for a Watsonville appointee in the process, or do we say anything about?
What we are listing is the board members that are going to be on the committee that are going to be doing the negotiations for this merger. So it would be the question of who among the full board would be on that.
Okay.
And the city and the county of Santa Cruz will have appoint representatives to be on this committee as well.
Okay.
And just by point of clarification, for the city, it'll be a representative of the city manager's office.
Yes.
And my other question was, I thought that Monterey was also considering merging, and what do we do?
They are. They have not had a sit down with Kathy or I yet. That'll probably happen towards the end of June. And so right now, these are the parties, CMAP and us are the parties that are going forward. If AMP decides to move forward, there's nothing about this letter that would keep them from doing that or being part of this exploration thing.
It will not enter into merger negotiations with any other party, doesn't preempt
No,
that?
well, if in fact we decide that AMP is going to be a part of this, we would amend the letter to incorporate, but right now, these are the 2 parties that are interested in moving forward.
Okay, great.
Tess?
I'm concerned this is a little premature. I think we should have a vote of the membership first. And that the purpose of the dates that I threw out for the membership vote were that we would know the outcome of the vote by the time we have our next regular board meeting. And I think at that time this should come. And if the membership has indicated that they're willing to go forward with this and do what it takes for that to happen, then this would be appropriate. But I think absent the membership's approval, it's a little premature.
I have a question. Did CMAP ask that we appoint a group already, or
Yes.
they did?
They did.
So they actually made a specific request that we do this. What would happen if, because I think Tess' point is a valid one, but what would there be any harm on their end if we appointed people conditionally? In other words, before the vote of the members?
I think all we can do is
Yeah,
is try that.
Maybe the way to blend what she's thinking with that is just to just say if upon approval of the membership vote, these will be the negotiating committee, so they at least know what it is, but they're not appointed until after that vote, so we don't jump forward, because I think it'd be good to kind of set it up and see what's happening, but condition it that happen, they become permanent appointments or whatever the term is. That's a little august for that, but that. And in terms of who, I would suggest the chair and vice chair, and then appoint an alternate from the membership too. So in case somebody can't go, you have essentially 2 plus an alternate. I won't participate because the city's already represented, so so that's that. I think that. But those are my kind of varied thoughts on this.
One of the reasons this came up is that the CMAP asked for this board to state in a motion our intent to continue with the merger or not.
Yeah.
And that was what this letter addressed. But the question is, back to Tess, is this letter go too far, in your opinion, then? It's beyond saying, we as a board think this is a good idea.
Well, I mean, it's asking for, I guess, Wouldn't we have to agendize the appointment of the committee members?
Yeah, I was looking at the language of the request, and I don't know that it goes that far. It says, I'd like to see you and Mary Ann set up a session with, or no, I'm sorry. I'd like a letter from the board indicating that the majority endorses moving in this direction and who will be the representative of all interactions with CMAP moving forward. Does that mean that we're appointing a negotiations committee, or we're identifying who's working with Kathy to move this forward?
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are all sorts of different thoughts on this.
Well, I think Joe and Tess, identify exactly what's going on. I don't think there is any doubt that this board wants to go into good faith negotiations. And that should state, a lot of this needs to be said, but it needs to be stated in there that it's the board, pending full member approval. But the board is going into, and we can already start working with, but we cannot make all the changes after, before the members have given us the authority.
Yeah, and I think that adding that language is part of it. I just don't know that the appointment of a negotiations committee, like Tess was saying, goes a little bit too far.
Right.
I'm for the letter in support of the merger. I just don't know, and it's a tricky question because Mary Ann's leaving, and so who is the person who's working with Kathy?
Yeah,
at
I
this
know, I
point?
think,
So.
Could we establish, I think we can't wait till a membership vote to even get started, so could we establish a temporary negotiating committee and then, can include that language that Joe mentioned about pending a membership vote, but just at least have some people who are already geared up, ready to go and start
That's right.
start talking.
okay.
Well, but I think, it's not necessarily a negotiations committee,
Right, it's a
because
merger
we're
committee.
not
We're representatives.
authorizing representatives of, to go into the merger exploration, So that's, I think if you soften it a little bit and put in there pending, member approval, but I don't see any reason why we couldn't get started.
And temporary,
It's all temporary.
right? Okay.
Yes.
So, are we under the impression that CMAP requires this before our next meeting, or they're not going to talk about it anymore? I mean, I'm not really sure where the fire is on this. If we're all sitting in an open meeting saying, yes, we're going to ask our membership to take this action to, move forward in a very tangible and serious way.
Mhm.
Yes, we all support it.
Right.
Maybe that's what the letter should say.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
I
just
think
seems
the fire
a little
is
bit-
coming from their next board of directors meeting. I think she wants to be able to
And that was on the
present something
14th
to
next
them.
week, and they would
Yeah.
like some of us to be there, right?
Exactly. I
And
think that's
probably
where
like to have something in
the
hand.
urgency in
Yeah.
this letter of support comes from, some kind of a formal letter from us as the board supporting the merger. And I agree that maybe the language should include that we're supporting it so much that we're putting this out to a full membership vote.
Well, also, maybe just put down pending the membership vote, the representatives to discuss with you, and just list the names. Because if somebody wants to call up,
Yeah.
who do they call?
Yep. Yeah.
Were you saying, Tess, that without being a separate agenda item, we couldn't appoint people even as temporary, or?
Well, it's not agendized.
Right.
I mean, so technically, unless the power has or the chair has a power, the chair who's not here has the power to create and appoint a committee, we're walking on shaky ice. I mean.
Well, why don't we do this?
Well,
I think Tess may have a point, because I argued this point with her last time.
However,
Yeah, okay,
it
let's see what.
says here, review and approve letter. In the letter, it
Okay,
says,
okay.
so it's not exactly not agendized.
Well, the letter doesn't talk about, I mean, I didn't have this at the time that I got this, and it doesn't say, a reasonable person wouldn't have the expectation reading this that there was going to be a negotiation committee appointed out of this action item.
I know.
Okay.
Just think deficit.
So there's two items as I see it, is if we approve a letter, do we put in language saying dependent on member approval?
That's deficit.
And two, what do we do about designating people to talk to CMAP?
Well, the letter reads the delegation to the merger negotiations committee. It doesn't say that they are the merger negotiations committee.
It's just a delegation.
There are delegation to the merger negotiation. Shall consist of the following
Well-
board members. So wouldn't that be all right?
Do we have to set up a committee? Can we just say, and we have a few people who are willing to begin work on this right away? I mean, does it have to be a negotiating committee? It can't be the contact person?
Who are
to-
temporarily representing the
Until our
board.
members vote? Yeah.
Delegation.
Well, Tessa's point is if you don't have specific language on the
I know.
item, you can't do it in
I know.
terms of Brown. So I think that's a correct point. This is kind of where your chair steps in sometimes and said, I'll take care of that and just, you know, communicate
ask for
that
help.
these are the people that we'll be bringing up when the time comes. And
So you're saying that the chair would say, these are the people that I will nominate to this committee at the next board meeting?
yeah, that way. And
Okay.
I think that's okay, isn't it, Tess?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I'm
I'll
just-
ask you,
Well,
Matilda.
no, Josh Tess.
No, you agree with me. I'll
You were
go for
talking
it.
to me? I'm trying to figure out how to rewrite this so it sounds something closer, because I don't know that it would be accurate to say that, you know, before we have a membership vote either, that we're not going to make any material changes affecting the corporation, its leadership, or financial commitments. I mean, that's a heavy statement to
Right.
make in a
Yeah.
period of extreme uncertainty pending a vote of the membership. I mean, that's just that I just pull right out of there. I mean, I don't see a problem with the first sentence. Okay?
But the pending, the membership vote is the appointment of the negotiations committee?
I would say that
Or is it more than that?
upon
It's more than
the,
that.
upon the affirmative vote of the membership, the CTV board will appoint a negotiations committee, period.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, is we could just add it to, you know, that CTV's delegation to the merger negotiation committee shall be appointed upon, you know.
An affirmative vote of the membership to proceed with the
Exactly.
merger.
If we just attach it to that one sentence, I think.
Yeah, I think the intent, I mean, that's why I haven't been more vigorous in my debate on this. I think you can tell me you're interested, and then, I think, Matilda, I think you're right, you could start doing work, but it might be, if there is a negative vote, it might be a kind of a waste of time too, so you're only talking a short period of time, like Tess said, so I withdraw my thought. But I will make a statement when it's done about what my preference would be, but there won't be anything more than that.
I think that, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think that if we were just to take out the sentence beginning with during that time, and then change the sentence beginning with CTV's delegation, change that to read the CTV Board of Directors
Shall
will
immediately upon an affirmative vote of the membership appoint a negotiating group?
how about, will immediately appoint a negotiations committee upon the affirmative vote of the membership to proceed with the merger.
And consisting of board members and representatives of the city and county of Santa Cruz.
Yeah, and
Just
then
lay
we
it
can
out
leave the
the way-
last sentence there. I mean, just so long as we take out that during that time sentence and then slightly modify that, saying that once the vote comes in from the membership, the next action we take, I mean, because that'll be on the June agenda.
Right.
And then everybody's cool with that process having been properly agendized and.
Can I just ask about the sentence beginning with during that time? Why does that need to be stricken? Because the operative words is that just without fully informing CMAP in advance?
Well, actually, I've been involved in a merger, and this is pretty common language, but to be honest, most of this language comes when everybody has full authority to do something,
Right.
not before. So
Okay,
I
okay.
didn't think in this case it was,
That makes
I wasn't too concerned one way or the other, but it usually comes later.
Okay.
I just wouldn't want to put any statements out there that would lead anybody to believe that, that if something changed because of the result of the vote, or, we came up with some bright idea, that we weren't acting in good faith.
Right.
So figure take it out.
Thank you.
We're still in good faith.
Do you want to make a motion on this when you're finished?
I'll make the motion
Okay.
that we approve the letter with the changes as
Tess.
Recited on
not
the record.
directed as,
Tess.
no, not a name, as stated, as whatever, as stated by Tess, that we approve this letter to the CMAC, the Board of Directors of CMAC.
I second.
Okay. Any further
And,
discussion?
yeah, just for point of clarification, okay, so
Yes.
during that time, that sentence is stricken, and then the next sentence just includes upon the vote of membership?
The next
Positive.
sentence would read, "The Community Television Board of Directors will immediately appoint a negotiations committee upon the affirmative vote of the membership to proceed with the merger," or something along those lines.
Yeah, upon
I
the
mean, I don't even think we
affirmative
need to
vote.
say who's going to be represented there. I think it's clear that, you know, amongst ourselves, that we're going to have some board members and we're going to have some city and county representation on
I
that
think
committee.
it would be good to keep that in there,
Yeah,
though.
I
think a
separate
Which shall
sentence.
consist of
Okay.
several board members
Just consisting of board members
and representatives from the
and,
city and county of Santa Cruz.
Yeah,
Okay.
or you just start a new sentence and say, "This committee will consist of."
I like
Extra
that.
sentence.
Do we need
That's
to
kind of a
amend-
run-on sentence at this point.
Do we need a
I'm the
vote?
queen of the.
Do we need to amend
Put
the
another
motion
clause.
because of the change? Okay, I'm just checking.
Yeah.
She was
As
clarifying with her
stated by
second.
So it's clarified
No,
here?
I made a
Yes.
motion, and
Okay,
it hasn't
but-
been seconded yet.
No,
Well,
no,
it's
Okay,
been
well,
seconded.
it was.
Adam
Adam
seconded.
did
Okay,
it.
good, perfect, Adam.
And I had a comment under the motion. Since we can't really get too specific, I'd like to state my preference for the board members and that, and this is just my opinion, so it doesn't have to be agendized. I think the board member should be the chair and the vice chair, and then one other alternate member selected by the board, because I think you need to have 3 people during this, because you're going to have all sorts of meetings. It just never ends. So, but, you know, those are my thoughts.
Okay.
Good idea.
Can I call for the vote, please? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All any opposed? Abstain? No? Okay, motion carries. So we have 9.1, is that correct?
Yeah, but that we asked to put off until after the closed session.
9.1 is the Executive Director Search Committee.
Yeah. Oh, that's, okay.
That's
That one was not put off, 13 was put off.
I should have asked that that be put off too, but I didn't think about it soon enough, so.
You can still ask.
No, I would rather do it afterwards if we could.
I see.
Fine with me.
Yeah.
Okay.
13.2.
13.2, 9.1 is this got moved to 13.2. Okay, and then 10, oral report from the board chair or other board members. I don't have a report to any other, I'm not the chair, but I'm acting chair. Any other? Okay. Board member staff requests for specific items appear on next regular meeting agenda. Actually,
Yeah, so we have, make sure that we have the next time, after the vote from the members,
Yeah, I think that's
that
what,
we, you know, do a couple things, and one of the things is to appoint the negotiation committee. And it was something else, right, Tess?
there is another item, but it's not
Do-
related to the merger.
Do we want to state anything about putting together informational sessions for the membership?
That's not on this
Recess.
item.
No?
That's going to happen in between the 25th of May and,
Okay.
or the 24th of May and June.
For the next board.
Yeah.
The thing that was requested was what about we're missing a board member from Watsonville?
Yeah.
Should that be on the agenda, or should we, what do we need to do?
Can't we just ask, can we as a board now ask that the chair make a
phone call.
call to
Yeah.
the Watsonville and ask them
Well,
to appoint somebody?
given the illness of the chair, maybe the vice chair can just call up, or Mary Ann.
Okay,
Might even be a good idea to write a letter
Yeah.
and have it included in the written correspondence of the legislative body to assure that your item gets reviewed and considered.
Okay.
We never seem to get a representative there that lasts.
It's a long way
They're
to-
all here 2 meetings and out. Or they run for
for
city
office.
council and they're
They
out.
win, they become mayor.
Yeah.
We're a jumping off ground one way and the other.
Okay.
Off of what?
Any announcements?
Should the membership vote be an item on the agenda for that June membership meeting?
Well,
So
yeah,
that
we do the
people have a
results.
chance to
Yeah.
weigh in and
A report out?
address the report, or address the board? And then also there was, the other part of the request that I saw from Kathy Bisbee was an official communication from the board and ED to the staff regarding this upcoming merger process. Is that something we need to?
We'll do that in the process of the vote. We'll
Okay,
have to.
perfect, thank you.
Any announcements? No?
Some of
Okay.
us are going to the tannery. Do we know exactly where at the tannery we're meeting?
Denise
Is it
is
in that
not
big
here.
room, that big?
The Digital Media Center,
That's
It's
right.
next week, right?
Yeah,
No,
Thursday.
it's Thursday.
Thursday.
2 days.
day after tomorrow. 12 to
I would
2.
presume it's in Space 110, but I think if you go in the courtyard there, it's not that big, you'll be able to
Yeah,
find where the room
okay, I
is.
just wanted to make sure it wasn't in one of the units or something. 12.
12 to 2.
Open to the public?
Yep.
Do we have to do anything
I'll
to
give you my
adjourn?
eyes and my ears because unfortunately I can't be there, but I love them.
Do we have to do anything to adjourn to closed session, or do we just do that?
Now
Just
we're
say
going to
adjourn to
adjourn
closed
this.
session?
No, we're going to, oh, we have a comment from Ron.
Actually, I am really in vacation mode. I didn't look at the agenda. I don't know what you're going into closed session for.
Employee performance evaluation of the executive director.
Executive director.
Okay. And I also just want, you do need to ask for public comment because public can comment on the subject before you go into closed session. But I
Okay.
don't have a comment, so.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Are we going to carpool to go to Gilroy?
Yes.
How many people are going to go?
Well, I'm driving, and I've had a staff person request to go with me. I have 3 more seats if anyone wants to.
It's next Monday,
Yeah.
right?
It's next Wednesday.
And representatives of city and county of Santa Cruz, or is there going to be representatives from the city,
Okay. Well,
county of
we're
Santa
back
Cruz?
into open session, and we were to report out from closed session that no action was taken in closed session. So we're returning to open session with 13.1, which was consent agenda item 4, recommendation to the Personnel Committee for job description of board clerk. And Tess?
I actually reviewed the job specification that was approved by the Personnel Committee and made a couple tweaks, which I very amateurishly did a handwritten strikeout and underline so you could see what suggestions I had to change it. And these suggestions were kind of based on historically what this position has been in this organization, which is pretty much an independent contractor under the control of the board. The way that I saw this board clerk position being defined, even though it says independent contractor, it would, and having gone through personnel committee, it would lead me to believe that it would be something that might be added to our schedule of employee positions in our personnel manual, which is not something that I think we should do. I think we should continue along the lines of having a independently contracted board clerk under the control of the board as a whole. So those are the changes that I proposed, and if the board accepts these changes, I would make a motion to
Okay.
Yes, Joe has a question.
Is there, I understand why you have it under the secretary of the board, because the secretary is the one that takes actions and is responsible for that. But is there any reason why it wouldn't be under the chair, though? Because the chair is the one that has the overall responsibility. I mean, I don't really have a strong feeling, but it just seems a little more linear that way.
It's just typically been under the direction of the secretary because the secretary's description, the secretary of the board's description is
yeah.
to
Okay.
pay
And-
attention to that stuff and make sure it's accurate. Whereas I just know, having been a board chair before, it's difficult. You're not listening in the same way that the secretary is. You're listening to manage the meeting as opposed to
Okay.
the details of what's
And
happening.
it adds an extra load to the chair who already has
Okay.
specific